Ooh, so apparently, more or less, it's been 1 year since George Floyd was murdered. Um, and there's a lot of stuff going on media, just kind of commemorating it and stuff. And I'm kind of looking back on it, and I feel like I don't know, it just weighs heavy on me because, first of all, I can't believe it's been a year because I feel it feels like it happened yesterday. Um, and I just think like the timing of everything, and I'm just like reflecting on like how it affected me and the people in my life, the people around me. It was tumultuous as fuck. Like I remember, it was bad enough that this happened while we were in quarantine. But honestly, I think that because it happened while we were in quarantine, we were able to have the time to mobilize and make this a big fucking thing to draw attention to it on the media and everything. Um, I know our greatest fear is that it would have started it would start as a trend and then fade out, and I really hope it's not doing that. I think we're trying to be more vocal as far as Black Lives Matter and whatnot. Um, it was, and it wasn't just George Floyd going on, too. It was Ahmaud Arbery, getting killed by a citizen's arrest by a bunch of crazy white dudes, white supremacists. And just now, a year later, I believe they changed the citizen's arrest laws in Georgia because that's the law that they cited or whatever. And he was just jogging. There was the Central Park Amy thing, and so many things were very unexpected PTSD triggers for me during that time. And what surprised me is that the George Floyd murder wasn't the biggest trigger for me. It was the Central Park Amy situation, the one where the guy was bird watching or feeding birds, and she didn't have her dog on the leash, and he asked her to put her dog on a leash, and she started screaming, and she was like, basically like, I'm gonna call the cops, and and tell them that there's a black man harassing me or assaulting me or some shit or whatever. And just that tone of you know this bitch saying like, I know my power as a white woman, and as a black man you're at my fucking mercy, because that's what happened to me in the Air Force. In a less singular way, it was something that was said by my abuser to me, a white woman, from a white woman, that was like, who are they going to believe, me or you? I could have you locked up right now in jail for nothing. Like, I could call them right now and have you locked up, tell them that you jumped across the table at me when I'm literally like just sitting in my chair crying, so so helpless, so hopeless, and realizing, taking this in, that because of what I am, because of the color of my skin, I really am considered subhuman. And so for some reason, the Central Park Amy situation is what really got me fucked up and had my PTSD messed up during that time. The Ahmaud Arbery, it was just like one after another, you know. Ahmaud Arbery, like I couldn't, for most of 2020, guys, I couldn't go running in my neighborhood. I would run outside almost every morning, um, since like the time I was trying to lose weight, and even after I lost all the weight, I was like, no, and I go running every morning. And I was running, and I realized that ever since like George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, there was more police in my neighborhood than I'd never seen before, and and like a lot of them were just like, it was just a very eerie presence. Um, didn't feel safe, you know, because because like police really did start acting a fool in different cities across the United States after this. And I remember I asked my husband to come running with me because I'm like, I don't feel safe. And I probably got to almost a quarter of a mile, and I started having a panic attack that was so bad that I fell to the ground and could not move, and I thought that I was gonna have to crawl probably a quarter of a mile back to my home because I was in such a panic. I did not have my medication with me, and I was like, it was like one of the most painful panic attacks in my life. I thought my heart was gonna explode out of my chest. Um, and then also like seeing my friends go out and march and like feeling so guilty that like I wanted to do that so badly, but after just falling down on the sidewalk, collapsing on the sidewalk, and like gauging my mental stability at the time and just in general, I knew that I'm like, even though being military, like rubber bullets and pepper spray or like whatever, like in the state that I am now as a PTSD veteran, I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna go out. There's no way I'm gonna be able to go out there and like really function. There's no way, and I felt so fucking bad. Um, and and so you know, and just like trying to find other ways to to be an activist about this if I wanted to, But then this was also the time where people were starting to get to know who I was on the internet, on like TikTok and everything. And people were already so fucking mean. So mean just because I was a woman in the anime niche, in the nerd niche. And people kept on bombarding me, like, when are you going to talk about Black Lives Matter? Talk about Black Lives Matter. Are you going to talk about Black Lives Matter? You're talking about Black Lives Matter? You're talking about Black Lives Matter? I'm like, and it got me so pissed off because I'm like, you're not even considering, like, what, like, the extent to which people feel comfortable asking for your emotional energy and your emotional labor for what, to make them feel good or to entertain them or to perform for them. And you're not even taking into account that I'm a black woman going through the shits, like watching this happen to my community. And there's just like zero consideration for how I'm processing that. It's like we don't get a choice. Like a lot of us don't get a choice to be able to process it because we're expected to perform for everybody, and that's how I felt. And so honestly, like, I didn't really post about it because I'm here rocking back and forth every day crying and having PTSD nightmares because of the shit that's going on. It was just so crazy. My friends marching in Minneapolis, one of my friends, like, she just straight up, she got straight pepper sprayed, during a peaceful protest, just walking, like, watching my friends get brutalized by police. Like, it was, it was absolutely ridiculous. Um, and like I said, this sort of brutality isn't new. Um, but because of the sheer just heinousness of what happened to George, and um, thank God for social media because we can start exposing these things now. And like I said, because we're all in quarantine, and we're not distracted by our jobs and all these other things, and like people are like, the black community is like, we got the fucking time, you know what I mean? um and and honestly, for me, that started, I mean, and then for me, like, that started a whole year of you know trying to be brave enough to talk about my situation, which is what I did. And what I ended up doing was like doing that entire video series, letting everyone know what happened to me in the Air Force. And you can go watch it if you want. That was so incredibly hard for me to do. But I was so angry. I was so mad about keeping all of this shit inside, like never talking about race and everything, even though I know what happened to me. And so all of this going on, I felt so fired up. But telling my story, like I talked about Isaiah Bradley and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like telling my story definitely even though it may have helped a lot of people for sure, it didn't get what's her face what she'd fucking deserve. It didn't get my abuse what she deserved, and it put me into a very deep depressive state all summer, I think, well into the fall, actually. I was so angry. I was so hopeless. I cried all the time. I cried when, you know, the higher ups in the Air Force that be were just like, they're like, oh, we really can't do anything, or we really can't, you know, we we can't find any evidence of any of this stuff, even though there's literally people testifying in my story what she did to them. It was just a reminder, again, of how the system is stacked against us. And at the end of the day, so many people will jump through hoops to say in the most diplomatic way, basically, that we don't give a fuck about you niggas. You're disposable. And that hit me that hit me very, very hard at the end of the summer last year, and set me down a pretty dark path. And I still go through waves of that, and I think I'm going kind of into a wave now. I think that unfortunately summer, as much as I love summer and look forward to it, might actually be a period of depression for me, because of that, because of things that I've been through during that time of year. There's certain months, certain days, but I just can't believe it's been 1 year since then. And in that year, I have talked a lot, like I said, on here about race. A lot, most of my rants are about race. And I used to be really scared because I was like, maybe people don't want to hear this. Maybe this is annoying. Am I overdoing it? Tone policing myself, basically. Am I being too aggressive? Like, should I just stick to telling jokes and shucking and jiving? And I still go through waves of that, you know, but then I come back to the fact that I've held all this stuff in my heart for so long, for my entire life, and been told that it's inappropriate to burden the world with these things, these traumas that not only I've been through, but so many other people like me have been through. And so now I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, these rants are gonna keep coming because, you know what? There's 28 years worth of shit, 28 years worth of stories and of thoughts that have been sitting in my head all my life, that have been stuffed in there because I have had to shut it up to protect the white people around me and to protect myself from the rage of white people around me. And now that I don't work for fucking anybody, now it's just all gonna come out. It's all gonna come out. And anyone who is uncomfortable with it is just going to have to deal with it. And I think that's what happened after George Floyd was murdered. That a lot of that stuff started to come out. A lot of us started being very forthright about these experiences, and I feel like that's the mood that has been for a year now. And I hope that it continues. It definitely will continue for me. I'm gonna be like, too bad. You know, I kept my mouth shut for 28 years for you, or for 27, whatever years for you. And now I have to dispel all of this shit out. Especially because I know that it will help other people that look like me and educate the motherfuckers that actually want to be educated. I don't give a fuck about the people that are committed to hating me. I don't give a fuck about them. Don't give a fuck about their comfort. I don't give a fuck about people that are committed to ignoring my situation either, ignoring our situation. So, yeah, I hope we can keep this going, this energy. But I tell you what, like, it's always really awful when it takes a death to spur this kind of change, and I wish it wasn't like that. But like I said, power of social media, things are being brought to light that could not be brought to light 10, 20 years ago. And hopefully that makes people more cognizant before they do dumb shit in public. Um, I hope so. You know, I hated one last parting thing. Like, I just fucking hated. I don't know if it was fucking Trump that was said like George Floyd's daughter should be proud of him because he's changing the world. Like my daddy's changing the world or something like that. And I'm just like, wow, y'all really fucking get off to black trauma, don't you? Like you really fucking jack the fuck off to black trauma. Like you don't give a fuck that this girl doesn't have a father anymore. You don't give a fuck about anything that we go through, but you love our trauma porn, right? You fail to see this little girl as a little girl that just lost her father, but you want to do this gaslighting of you should be happy, you should be happy, you should be proud. Proud for what? Happy for what? I'm like, I think one thing for sure that I've learned this past year after all this is that I'm tired of being strong for no reason. I'm tired of being resilient for the sake of being resilient. I'm tired of being performatively strong just to prove to the world how black and strong I am. I think that on the contrary, the world needs to see how black and delicate I am. Black and delicate we all are. Because people have seen us, whether they know it or not, as subhuman or other than human for too long. And that's definitely one thing that I've learned over the past year, that I am not going to be strong, resilient, performatively strong or resilient for anybody anymore. You're going to hear my pain, you're going to see my tears, you're going to hear my fucking complaints. And they're barely complaints, they're really just testimonies. And if you see them as complaints and you see them as annoyances, you can keep on stepping because you are contributing actually nothing to our society moving forward. And you can kiss my ass and everybody else that's willing to move forward with me, with us. But I'm done being strong, performatively strong for no reason, because that's what's been expected of me as a black woman. Because when people continuously paint us as strong, resilient, unbreakable, it gives people permission to batter us because there's a perception that we cannot be broken. But we can. George Floyd was broken. Ahmaud Arbery was broken. So many others, Breonna Taylor. We are breakable. And that's definitely one thing I've taken from the last year. Like, no, you're going to see my tears and you're going to be uncomfortable by it. And I don't care because I have every right as a human to express that. So that's kind of what